You must go now and find the Dragon Balls.
In search of more Dragon Balls, the fight has moved to Namek.
Chances are rare.
Watch out, kid!
But for Yusuke Urameshi, fate has interfered.
Following a dusty trail of money, sin, and desperation, living day to day, dreaming hour by hour.
Smash the Stampede! He's coming our way! He's coming!
Trigun, premiering Monday, March 31st at midnight on Adult Swim.
The most successful animes captivate our attention. Ever since the days of Dragon Ball and Fist of the North Star, we have watched and read amazing protagonists and their compelling motivations. Naruto shares a dream of becoming a Hokage, to earn respect from his village and lead the world into peace. Luffy wants to become king of the pirates, seemingly to be the most free man on earth. And Gon wants to meet his father and become a hunter to better understand why his father chose to be a hunter over staying in his hometown to raise Gon. All these character motivations help us support the character's journey through their goals and highs and lows. Moreover, along the way, we learn more about ourselves and question the same questions that these characters face throughout their journey. Is every friendship worth relentless pursuit to be salvaged? What does it mean to be free, and who truly is? What matters more, the journey or the destination? There are hundreds and hundreds of animes like these, but far fewer animes can answer a profound question in 26 episodes or less of a very powerful narrative. And that anime is Trigun. Before we get into the 1998 anime, which I'm going to use to focus on this video, let's discuss the origins of Trigun and its very interesting publication history. Trigun is a manga and animated created by artist Yasuhiro Nightow. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was first serialized in Tacoma Shoten's Shonen Manga Magazine Monthly Shonen Captain from March 1995 to December 1996. Until the magazine ceased its publication, the chapters were collected in 3 volumes. This is considered by many the original story. The series continues publication in a brand new magazine called Young King Hours under the title Trigun Maximum from October 1997 to March 2007. The same magazine, Young King Hours, republished a series of Trigun in 2 volumes and Trigun Maximum in 14 volumes. Due to this weird publication history, many, like myself, are very confused at where to start with Trigun and how to actually read the series properly. I looked up several Trigun community forums online to better understand what is the best approach, and a lot of people seem to be split. Some people prefer the original manga and deem Maximum kind of a tough read that overcomplicates a story and makes it a lot more serious than it should be. Where does the series actually begin and where does it properly end? I don't know. And to make matters more complicated, I discovered Trigun Stampede, which is a second attempt at translating the manga into an anime medium via Crunchyroll that came out here now in 2023. Stampede is a television series that thrives off this really cool, unorthodox 3D animation that effortlessly flows and at times kind of looks even 2D despite it really being 3D. The series is what got me hooked on characters like Vash, Meryl, and the world of No Man's Land. After 3 episodes, Stampede gave me great first impressions and made me feel confident in the foundation of the series and its general character and themes. So I decided, okay, now that I've given Stampede a good chance and I understand the lore a little bit more, I understand the main character and I'm liking where this is going, let's give the manga a chance. The manga probably is directly adapted by Stampede, I'm assuming, right? No, not even close. Look at the first episode of Stampede. Meryl Strife all of a sudden was a junior instead of a senior. There's no mention of Knive or Vash's past. Where are the military police? Where is the town plant? Who the hell is this guy? It seemed like to me the Stampede anime took on insane amount of creative liberties. Its story felt distant but close to the first few pages I read of the manga, but still just not quite right. The manga is a lot more serious tone compared to Stampede, and according to people online, than any other medium of Trigun. Its story goes into detail on the lore of the universe and touches on deeper subjects and tones like Vash's more dilemma with his kindness, which we'll get to in the anime as well, but the manga does a more in-depth analysis and good job of it. But the manga has one of the most hardest to decipher panels I've ever seen in my life. The story's pacing and direction at times feels rushed and misguided. It's hard to tell what character says what, how Vash and others are moving during fights, and when it's at its worst, the manga's POV is oriented very confusingly. The art is fantastic, don't get me wrong, and you get these sick panels that kind of feel like, imagine a Green Day or hard punk band just playing a tune on a page. It just screams hard punk in your face whenever you're reading and looking at some of these panels. And they're really beautiful. I read all the chapters of the first 2 volumes of Trigun and the first chapter of Trigun Maximum. And I did my best to try to gather as many notes as I could between the 2 mediums to understand if there's any difference between the direct beginning of Trigun Maximum and Trigun. And at least from what I've seen, not too much of a difference. Good read, but like I said, hard to follow. So after all this weird deliberation between Stampede and trying to decipher the manga, I decided maybe the thing that I'm missing to really make sense of the order of events and the things that are happening in Trigun is the anime. And that's exactly where I went next. When researching Trigun for this video, I found out that Trigun faced a similar issue to that of Full Metal. The anime caught up to the manga way too quick. It had come up with its own story to finish the 26 episode runtime. In my honest opinion though, the story that the anime creates might be the best medium to consume Trigun.
Can't we all just get along? Peaceful like?
Let's talk about Vash. Vash is a unique character in that he is not your typical shonen character who fights for what he believes in through justified violence. You usually don't get a cool, badass energy from Vash. Instead, the character of Vash is typically a dorky pacifist. He is an elite sharpshooter who has rare moments of badass combat when his back is against the wall, but often Vash sees the good in all and will avoid the use of bullets as much as he can. He stands by the conviction that kindness prevails above all, hammering on his own quote from chapter 1 in the original manga, "Pain isn't something anyone likes." He firmly believes that everyone can be saved and no one shall suffer, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's this hard-headed commitment to kindness and the story's relentless effort to question its validity that made me do a lot of thinking and questioning myself. After days of research, thoughts, and reflections, I found myself writing down the main question that I believe the Trigun anime was trying to answer through its 26 episode runtime. Even throughout the filler and all the semi-canon episodes, it all circled back to one question. Can kindness, in all its vulnerability, be not only a beacon of hope, but a catalyst for change in a world where cruelty seems like the only currency for survival? I think the anime tries its best to answer this question through 3 narrative pieces that are all represented with themes and accompanying questions. The first theme being vulnerability and its question, kindness comes with a sacrifice. To what extent is that sacrifice worth it? The second theme being hope, and its accompanying question being, is kindness enough for eternal peace? And the last theme being change, and its accompanying question being, how does one fix a cruel world? Let's break down how the Trigun anime tackles each of these themes and each of these questions through its 26 episode runtime. Before we get into it, I'm Simon from the Panic Brothers, as you already know by clicking on this video. If it's your first time here, please, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're getting really close to being monetized on this channel, and that's actually really huge for me and Josue, especially if you don't do it for me, at least do it for Josue. I have struggled to post a lot here, and Josue has done more than his fair end of the bargain to keep the channel alive and put in blood, sweat, and tears to give you guys the content that you see on our main page. So strap in, like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the video.
Hey, they seem to be getting along really well. The birds of a feather have flocked together.
The Trigun anime early on makes it clear who Vash Stampede is. That goofy kind of individual mentioned before who doesn't take most situations or character interactions seriously. This kindness and demeanor carries through most of Vash's screen time. Despite his harmless persona, Vash is a bounty worth billions of double dollars. Said bounty gets him in trouble constantly through the series. Funny enough, the bounty disappears early in the manga, but persists through the anime. But we're only here to talk about the anime, so let's ignore that fact. We don't learn much about Vash's motivation until later in the series. So until then, we follow him and 2 insurance employees tasked with babysitting him, known as Meryl Strife and Millie Thompson. The trio have silly misadventures with rare serious moments throughout several towns across the planet known as No Man's Land. Vash is always seen getting into all sorts of troubles, like flooding a town with water hoarded by rich water tycoon Mr. Shazar. I really don't know how to pronounce that. Going on late night benders with a retired legendary gunsmith named Frank Marlin, and being locked in a self-destructing power plant by a renowned plant engineer named Elizabeth. The encounters and scenarios he finds himself in always seem random, yet they all carry a purpose, usually highlighting an individual's internal struggle, shedding light on the corrupt society existing on No Man's Land, and almost always circling back to the theme of kindness. To better understand some of these encounters, let's better understand some of Trigun's lore.
I found you, Vash the Stampede!
It's a bounty hunter!
No Man's Land is a desert planet where, for reasons I'll break down later in this video, has humans who have crash landed on it from a failed project known as Seeds. The Seeds project was a desperate attempt by humans from a distant future to search for a habitable planet after destroying Earth. Similar to our current Earth, Trigun's Earth was destroyed by man's own greed and folly. Thus, thousands of humans were frozen and stored on ships looking for new homes. The human beings who directed Seeds unfortunately perished, but one brave crew member was able to save a percentage of humans frozen on board, allowing them to rebuild society on a desert planet through resources known as plants. Plants are miraculous living beings that emit near endless amounts of energy to allow for the production of electricity, water, and even plant life. Vash has been seen to be able to communicate with some of these plants throughout the anime and manga, and is later revealed to be a plant himself. Considering all these elements of Trigun's lore, it's pretty clear to imagine that this barren world, being freshly inhabited, is bound to be engulfed in cruelty and darkness, as concepts like justice and law are being re-established in a new setting. No Man's Land is full of bandits, gangs, bounty men, murderers, and con men. People in this world take and take and take, knowing it is the only means of survival. Kids take advantage of adults, moms threaten to kill to protect their young, the rich hoard their supplies, and those who once dream give up on their dreams completely. Despite this unfortunate cruel setting, in any episode, Vash exhibits kindness to strangers and enemies alike, spreading a message of peace and of love. He constantly tries to be a beacon of hope around those miserable with their lives. For example, in episode 3, funny enough, named Peacemaker, Vash learns of a gunsmith named Frank Manson, who quit his passion because his wife and child were killed by one of his guns. In a drunken stupor, he tells Vash there's no point in continuing his work because someone is always bound to get hurt. Why do anything with good intentions when the world is so cruel? Vash quietly accepts Frank's feelings, and instead of judging him or providing conflict, he exercises kindness by joining him in drinking and distracting him from a harsh reality. The next day, when a group of bandits calling themselves Vash show up to terrorize the sheriffless town, the real Vash makes a heroic stand, bluffing that he has a gun in his pocket, encouraging the townsfolk to take aim at the bandits. Frank sees this and is baffled at why Vash or anyone would take action. He sees no gain in standing up for anything. Let the world take from me and I'll be okay as I am and was. Vash tells Frank he simply helps because the situation isn't equal. The ability to be able to do something justifies the action. It's a selfless kind of act that awakens the old, jovial Frank. He realizes his guns do make a positive impact if he tries to be the impact himself. Kindness from Vash here teaches and instills courage in those involved. It's this kindness that Vash uses intentionally and unintentionally to help those in need, whether they know it or not. Vash's kindness is obviously a wonderful quality, and the series ensures us time and time again this is what we should strive for. However, the anime persistently questions several aspects of kindness, one of these aspects being sacrifice. All good actions, including kindness, come with a sacrifice. If you lend someone money out of kindness, you sacrifice your finances. If you dedicate a weekend to helping your best friend finish a school project, you sacrifice time. If you stand by a relative going through drug abuse or relapse, you sacrifice your willpower and energy. The worst of all, sometimes the sacrifice is doubled down by another party. What if that friend doesn't pay you back the money? What if that drug-abusing relative never finds help and abuses your resources to support their addiction? It's fair to say in our world you can't give without take, and it's the same philosophy that translates well in the Trigun anime. Vash at every step of his journey deals with some negative aspect as a result of his kindness. There are several negative outcomes that result from Vash's actions, ranging from accidental destruction of cities, like the annihilation of the city of July, to betrayal from others. The most telling example of said betrayal comes from episode 5, named Hard Puncher, which is a direct adaptation of chapter 1 from the manga. Vash has breakfast when a group of bandits come to collect the 60 billion bounty on his head. Vash scares off the group in his usual unorthodox pacifist way, but when the townspeople find out he's Vash the Stampede, they try to get the bounty themselves to fix their breaking plant. The townspeople make it very clear to Vash they are after his head after need and not desire. With the money from Vash's bounty, they can not only fix their plant, but hire doctors who can treat the sick, elderly, and the children. In a world that seemingly takes from them, they simply are taking some back. What's very interesting is not once in the episode does Vash get upset at his hunters. He never shows a slight sign of annoyance. He treats the whole situation as a joke up until he's confronted by mothers. Vash in their presence says, "Bounty hunters and aprons? Wouldn't want kids to see this." We know from this Vash understands the situation well, and still shows no malice. When hired gunmen known as the Nebraska Brothers roll into town from orders of the Imperial City Mayor to capture Vash, they cause reckless damage and harm the bounty hunters in aprons in an attempt to kill Vash. It's here where we see Vash doubles down on his kindness and puts his life on the line taking care of the injured woman as Nebraska relentlessly attacks him. Despite being betrayed, Vash still holds the health and safety of the people around him at his top priority. He makes quick work of Nebraska and saves the town from further property damage. All the while, he does not ask for any apology or any form of forgiveness. He even fakes being asleep to refuse a duel of prostitutes the town sends him as a thank you gift. His kindness brought on a potential life-threatening sacrifice, yet he still rolled the dice on kindness again and cashed out big. Why does Vash not hold content? Why does he not prioritize living and flee the city? Why doesn't he do what every other shonen character would do and fight back? It's simple. Kindness is Vash's greatest value.
Shoot if you want. Try your luck.
We as humans all share values. Some of us are aware of them, and most nowadays are unaware of them. Values are individual beliefs that motivate people to act one way or another. They serve as a guide for human behavior. Generally, people are predisposed to adopt the values that they are raised with. People also tend to believe that those values are right because they are the values of their particular culture or upbringing. Vash's value stems from his relationship with the character Rem. Rev Severum is a crew member of the Seeds Project mentioned earlier and the primary caretaker of Vash and his brother Knives. Her crew is responsible for finding Vash and Knives as newborns and fostering them since birth. She is characterized by her loving and nurturing philosophy. Rem was the crew member responsible for saving as many humans as she could during the Seeds Project shipwreck incident. She sacrificed herself in the process. Despite her premature death, her teachings ultimately shaped Vash's philosophy and make him develop his prioritized value of kindness. Vash's value is so directly tied to Rem that any contradictory action taken makes him feel like as though he is abandoning Rem. This is shown multiple times through Vash's dreams and visions where he imagines a fading Rem. He sees her as his moral compass, and whenever found questioning his morality, considers it more so questioning Rem.
If I shot him now, you really would die.
Values are very strong in this way. They can force our hand instinctively, all while reminding us of our origins. When reminiscing over the origins of one's value, it can light a fire in them. People every day fight for values like community, creativity, and liberty. When one does fight for their own values, can they really say any consequence were deemed as a sacrifice? Let's say you value honesty. Now imagine you live with a significant other and her 5-year-old pet dog. Your partner leaves you behind with her dog for the week. Say while they're gone, you leave out chocolate one day on the kitchen counter and notice a chunk falls to the kitchen ground. You decide you're too lazy to clean it up now, so you shove it out of your way with your foot to clean up later. The next day you rise to your partner's dog dead from consuming the pile of chocolate you forgot to clean up. I know this is a very animated example, but let's assume, barring logic, the dog is 100% dead. The things any person holding this value will highly tell you that by doing the right thing, being honest in this case, there is no sense of sacrifice. Sure, maybe an argument blows up, and worst case scenario, maybe the relationship even ends. But the core value of honesty would outweigh the negative feedback faced. This is what we see through Vash. Yes, Vash faced immediate betrayal from the town he saved from bandits, but it never bothered him and stopped him from continuing his kindness all episode. Why did it not? Because it was a core value he exercised without expectation or benefit. Vash doesn't express kindness on others out of expectation of a favor or do it to avoid negative consequences. He does it because he simply knows it to be his best character. He knows being kind is more important than any byproduct of his actions. He knows living Rem's teachings is enough to justify any action. Kindness or any exercise of value does bring upon sacrifice. But when it's a core value we tie to our upbringings, foundation, or even our loved ones, then the sacrifice is deemed null and void. We don't even notice it. Kindness, or any value, is well worth the sacrifice. However, this only answers one part of our overarching question. Trigun pushes the extremes of sacrifice to a new level. What happens when that sacrifice is a direct contradiction of kindness? What happens when kindness fails to be the answer time and time again and only results in anything but kindness? When being kind results in you causing pain, destruction, and even death, do you abandon said kindness? Essentially, is being kind enough?
Kill me. I can't.
Like I mentioned earlier, Vash's actions results range from accidental destruction of cities like the annihilation of July to betrayal from others. Let's look more into the former. Towards the latter half of Trigun, things take a very much more darker tone. Specifically, I mean episodes 17 to 26, the finale. In episode 17, named Rem Savarim, we get a full episode highlighting Vash's backstory, along with Knives and Rem. We meet the small, intimate crew behind Seeds: Steve, Mary, Joe, Rowan, and Rem. We learn that Vash and Knives are not believed to be humans, but instead, as the series hints at multiple times, the same species of beings as plants. Vash never embraces this lack of humanity, and instead behaves as what he deems human, like his mentor Rem. Knives is shown to be quite drastically different as someone who believes himself to be better than human being species. We also get screen time of Rem, Vash, and Knives discussing plans for a peaceful Eden-like world in the ship's recreation room filled with flowers, plant life, and insects. Rem explains to the boys that Earth was destroyed by man, but they hope to find a new planet to correct their wrongs and start anew. She here many times in the series mentions how she finds hope in the future because it is always blank. Despite losing her presumed lover Alex and her home planet, she stays optimistic life will continue because nothing is written. Knives does not agree with this logic at all, and believes all humans are trash and should be exterminated as they are the responsible party for the problems they are trying themselves to fix. Why find a solution when you can attack the root of the problem? The anime does a beautiful job of illustrating this when Knives and Vash are observing a butterfly being attacked by a spider in the recreation room. Vash delicately tries to save the butterfly, but before he can, Knives swiftly interjects and kills the spider with his bare hands. Vash lashes out and tells Knives there is always a way to save everyone, and that no one should have the ability to take and give life, the words that Rem herself has taught Vash. Knives sees his mindset, and Rem's, as contradictory, as the spider needs to eat the butterfly to live. The scene ends without resolution, and we see the two differing mentalities that carry throughout the plot. One believes destruction of evil leads to peace, while the other, Vash in this case, believes nothing is innately evil, and all must be and can be saved. The episode before this, and any episode onward, Vash's mentality is tested in wicked ways, and he fails to prove his caretaker's teachings correct. He can't actually save everyone. These mental tests are conducted through a villain group known as the Gun-Ho Gang. Think of the Akatsuki or the Phantom trope from Hunter x Hunter, except a lot more forgettable. This is a massive issue I have with the villains in Trigun, but that's a separate topic for a completely different video. The members of the group serve Knives and his number 2 right-hand man, Legato. On the surface, their purpose is to kill Vash, but in reality are really meant to instill mental pain and suffering onto Vash. Each member puts Vash into several stressful situations where he is forced to fight back with a mild amount of violence. By design, all one by one, they die in front of Vash's eyes, either due to suicide or by Legato's hands, as the group lives by the mantra that any failed mission costs that person's life. The first Gun-Ho member we run into is named Moniv the Gale, in episode 12 named Diablo, the same episode and representation of the same chapter where we meet Legato and his cold-blooded personality. Halfway through the episode, when Moniv begins his assassination attempt of Vash, Vash begins running all over town warning people to run, attempting to save them from Moniv's gunfire. After getting tired of Vash's running, Moniv decides to fire off his guns through a group of houses and several people, yelling that he and the town will die together. Against Vash's protest and horror, he fires, killing many people including several children. This causes Vash to abandon his calm attitude. Moniv notes this sudden change in personality, calling Vash the devil after looking into his devilish blue eyes and retreating in absolute fear, with Vash trying to shoot him again as he runs. Vash eventually subdues the villain, and despite having the primal urge to kill him in retaliation for killing all the townspeople, Vash still spares his life, remembering Rem's lessons. This incident is a foreshadowing event of all the calamities and tougher decisions Vash must continue making throughout the series. In episode 16, named Fifth Moon, Vash faces off against a stronger Gun-Ho Gang member named Raidai, who seeks the sensation of knocking Death's door. He fights Vash, hoping Vash can help him achieve his long sought after goal. Vash, in typical fashion, refuses to kill or even harm Raidai, and as a result ends up being lethally wounded on the cusp of death. His arm in the final hour becomes an angel arm, a part of lost technology that the species of plants Vash and Knives belong to have access to. Using his prosthetic arm, Vash shoots at his angel arm to divert the direction of the arm when it fires off, It decimates the city of August and blows a massive hole onto the 5th moon above the city. Earlier in the series, the lore established by-side character states Vash had already destroyed another one of these major cities, the city of July. Despite Vash having no memory of the incident's details, he knows himself to be responsible for it, and the deaths of the city's inhabitants. In the aftermath, Raidai is shown to be alive and is met by Wolfwood, a new 4th member of the core group, who asks where Vash is. Raidai is shot dead by Wolfwood. Wolfwood comments on what Vash did to August, and asks if this is the path that Vash chose, if being kind was worth such destructive damage. The destruction of August sets Vash mentally back. He deems himself a threat to anyone he interacts with, as his pacifist actions have now led to the deaths of hundreds in July, multiple members of the Gun-Ho gang, and now the destruction of the city of August. In episodes 20 and 21, Vash and Wolfwood visit a working siege ship housing hundreds of humans living peaceful lives outside the chaotic climate of No Man's Land's Earth. Vash reveals that the siege ship in question saved his life and were his first contact of humans after he and Knives crash landed on No Man's Land. He has spent decades with these people and know them all to be his close friends. At the ship, the Gun-Ho gang again strikes, attempting to kill Vash with 3 new members: Gray the 9 Lives, Hobber the Gauntlet, and Leonov the Puppet Master, who has the ability to make and control humans like puppets. The Gun-Ho gang fails to kill Vash again, but due to Vash's forgiving nature, ensures to destroy 2 of the 4 plants the siege ship uses to stay afloat. The ship crashes onto Earth, forcing its members to now assimilate with life on the planet. If not bad enough already, the Puppet Master attempts to assassinate Vash with a sneak attack, causing Vash's close friend Brad to sacrifice his own life to protect Vash. Wolfwood sees this and goes out his way to find the Puppet Master in order to kill him, knowing Vash would allow the man to go free. This mini arc contained by 2 episodes ends with Vash again through pacifist actions, allowing the death of several ship members, Brad, and the Gun-Ho gang members themselves. It's the first time we see close friends and not just strangers die in front of Vash's eyes since Rem. In episode 22 named Alternative, we meet another Gun-Ho gang member named Zazie, who disguised himself as a kid to try and kill Vash. The attempt fails when Vash notices his malicious intent. Again, Vash attempts to reason with the Gun-Ho member and refuses to use violence to prevent him from doing any more damage to anyone else. As Vash gets closer to Zazie with soft words and open arms, Zazie seems to hesitate to shoot Vash and appears to slowly lower his defenses. Right before what seems like Vash's first successful attempt and persuasion through kind words and peace, Wolfwood shoots his gun and kills Zazie. Vash fights with Wolfwood, telling him he believed they were close to calming Zazie down. Wolfwood, despite Vash's words, strongly believes what he did was right, and he was confident Zazie would have shot Vash dead. When Vash says there had to be an alternative to killing Zazie, Wolfwood retaliates and claims there was never an alternative. He tells Vash it is impossible to save everyone, and that he will only fail to save anyone by refusing to think differently.
I had no alternative. I had to choose one or the other.
Wolfwood is easily the second most important character in the show, and serves to be a medium of questioning Vash's practices. Episode 23 covers Wolfwood's origins and composition. Raised by a member of the Gun-Ho gang named Chapel, Wolfwood grew up learning how to shoot and kill those he deemed a threat to his friends and the children he fostered at his own daycare. Wolfwood is a religious man, and he never deemed his actions sinful, as he was taught by other priests the concept of quick, effective thinking and justified violence. Make the best decision in a split second. Sometimes we have to play the devil. Under the direction of the Gun-Ho and Knives, Wolfwood was instructed to guide Vash through his interactions with other members of the Gun-Ho gang and steer him clear of any other path. Funny enough, through his travels with Vash, Wolfwood constantly debates if Vash's methodology is right and what actions are best taken in any situation they find themselves in. He slowly dissipates himself away from quick, effective thinking, yet in turn, because of this, becomes tormented by the thoughts of right and wrong.
It's so strange. Where did I go wrong? I've always chosen the right path, haven't I?
When Wolfwood is alone with Millie Thompson, he opens up and asks her why she hasn't said anything about killing Zazie. He questions himself and begins to ask, I've always chosen the right path, haven't I? The conflicting moral dilemma keeps Wolfwood distressed to the point where he faces Vash in battle and hopes Vash will have the answer Wolfwood seeks when met with violence from a friend. At every question Wolfwood throws Vash, Vash responds with, I don't know. Even when asked, what will you do when you find your brother Knives? This situation really fondly reminds me of the interaction between Naruto and Pain and Shippuden. Pain was very set on the only way that anyone can find peace is by instilling pain onto everyone
Can you
equally.
stand there and tell me that you will never change your mind? You think you will always believe in yourself? How can you possibly have that much faith that life won't change you?
Naruto obviously did not agree with this logic and tried to fight back with his own logic of finding peace through other means. But when Pain asked Naruto what are these other means, what are these other methods, because Pain has spent several years and decades trying to find the answer, Naruto responds with, I don't know, but he won't give up until he finds the answer. It's very similar to the interaction between Wolfwood and Vash. Vash hasn't given up hope yet, but at the same time, he really does not know what the right solution is to finding peace. Wolfwood accepts that Vash doesn't know the right answer, but doesn't give up to go down the path he chose. Ultimately, the episode ends with Wolfwood battling his master, the Chapel. Wolfwood takes the upper hand on Chapel and has the ability to kill him off, as he has done several times in the show. Echoing Vash's mentality, Wolfwood decides to choose peace and in turn spare the Chapel. Legato sees this from afar and uses his powers to force Chapel to kill Wolfwood. Wolfwood's death is an extremely sad and slow one, as he debates what is right and wrong up until his final breath.
I did what it took to protect the children at any cost. That's how I always justified my actions. I took many people's lives. All that time believing there was no other way. My sins are so heavy. Too heavy. Too heavy to ever atone for. And yet, somehow I feel happy. At peace with myself today. It really can be done. Once you stop to think about it, there are plenty of ways to save everyone. Why didn't I ever listen to him? Why didn't I see that before it was too late?
The death of Wolfwood shatters Vash, Meryl, and especially Wolfwood's presumed lover, Millie. Vash blames himself for the death of Wolfwood, as his death was a direct result of Wolfwood following Vash's example and mentality. Now that we're nearing the end of the story, let's recap on everything up until this point. Vash has now destroyed July and August, and indirectly been responsible for the killing of several Gunho members, Siege Ship members, Brad, and now Wolfwood, all because of his pacifist ways. Despite his goofy attitude, his smile is fake, and deep down, he is unraveling, losing people left and right. The final straw to break is a direct kill, an action that is contradictory to Vash's beliefs. And that is exactly what happens in episode 24. In episode 24, Legato and Vash face off in a final Gunho member showdown. Legato uses his mind control to control a whole town of people to shoot and attack Vash with the help of his other Gunho member, Mid-Valley. Vash is able to best Mid-Valley, rendering his weapon of a saxophone useless. But in turn, it only results in the same fate that all Gunho members have, as Mid-Valley kills himself right in front of Vash, causing Vash to believe that he once again failed to save a life. Once Vash confronts Legato alone, Legato uses the town of brainwashed people to kidnap and beat Meryl and Millie in front of Vash's own eyes. Vash pleads and begs Legato on his knees to call them off, yet to no avail. He claims that the only way to stop the villagers is by killing Legato. If not, the villagers will surely kill Millie and Meryl, and then after Vash. Faced with the biggest test and more dilemma, Vash is now hesitant and conflicted to do anything. His kindness preaches no violence nor killing, yet by not killing, he is still indirectly killing his friends again, just like every episode beforehand. When given the choice, and with every second dwindling down, Vash finally makes his decision and breaks his own moral code, his one golden rule. He kills Legato by shooting him in the head. Meryl and Millie are safe. Vash stopped the villain, but he now internally suffers from committing his most taboo sin, murder. Legato won.
No one has the right to take the life of another.
Vash time and time again is kind to anyone, and I really mean anyone. Every friend, every stranger, and every Gunho gang member, yet his kindness results in death and loss at every turn. His actions or lack thereof never result in the peace that Rem promised him was possible. Is kindness enough for eternal peace? Can we as human beings now in the real world do the same as Vash and expect different results? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Kindness is a great step forward. Some would say probably the first primary concept to master in trying to get to a stage of peace. However, in a world where so many individuals are born without kindness, lack any understanding of it or its beliefs, how is kindness even possible to solve any problem? Do we think by just giving out money to those who need it, it's enough? Obviously, it is beneficial to the needy and you should donate whenever possible to those in need, but I guarantee you, giving them money isn't enough. How about this? Nearly 1/3 of lottery members eventually go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years, which is more likely than the average American, according to the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards. Take this money example, take the kindness example, and you'll see a similarity. You can't just simply solve all problems by blindly only focusing on one aspect of charity. Kindness can do a lot to mend, but where does kindness get you in a situation like Legato's hostage dilemma or something like Wolfwood fighting in self-defense? I know anime isn't based in reality, but these situations aren't too stretched far from it. Thus, if kindness is not enough to obtain peace, if kindness alone can't bring us closer together, then what does bring peace? How does one fix a cruel world? Well, how about this quote? Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. How does one fix a cruel world? Education is how you fix a cruel world. Episode 25, a Trigun named Live Through, grabs all the pain and sorrow from the series and uses it to pressure cook a diamond, a solution to the problems Vash has been trying to solve for 130 years of existence. Episode 25 starts depressingly. Vash is a broken man. He has lost several friends and now has murdered someone in point-blank range of his own hands. Vash spends several days bedridden from injuries, crying, blankly staring into the town they have stumbled upon after confronting Legato and having borderline schizophrenic conversations with visions of Rem. Millie and Meryl do their best impression of Vash and continue forward with kindness, bathing him, feeding him, and nurturing for him, ensuring him he doesn't have to fight anymore. Vash blames himself for everything, and despite finding comfort in living with the girls, shares suicidal tendencies and major depressive episodes. Watching Vash wallow in his own self-pity really did hurt me as a viewer and made me realize that if I was in Vash's shoes, I would not know either what to do up until this point. To make matters worse, almost as if full circle, the town that the main trio preside in recognize Vash even without his iconic red coat and turn on him. They blame him for all the lives lost of their close friends and families in July. They string him onto the back of a car and whip his soulless body around the desert plains until they decide to kill him off. Vash accepts the reality of the situation and shamelessly confirms his identity and admits to killing those the town people were close to. He does this all in acceptance of punishment and mentally prepares for death as he deems the act fit for his perceived idiotic path of actions. Meryl luckily steps in and begs the town to stop hurting Vash. She pleads with them, and in similar fashion to Rem's attempt to save Ruan and Vash's attempt to save Zizzy, Meryl slowly walks to a gunman with open arms. She tells him the cycle of violence needs to end. Like a splitting image of Rem, Meryl speaks the words, "No one has the right to take the life of another. The future is blank," inspiring Vash, showing him that she has learned through his example and Rem's, and moving him to find a revelation in all the chaos. Vash's revelation is this: people have many different ways of thinking. Even if you make a mistake, if you realize it was a mistake, it's always possible to fix it. If you turn around, you will see the future. Vash made a mistake. Knives has made mistakes. Meryl has made several mistakes. Everyone has made mistakes. No one is perfect, and no one is expected to be. Realizing that mistakes are just that, a mistake, and not who you are, is enough to allow yourself to fix it. It's never too late to become better and educate yourself in what is right. One has to realize this themselves. If one doesn't learn to deem what is wrong through their own actions and mistakes, then cruelty will always transpire. It's with this newfound resolve that Vash realizes why Rem's last words were, "Take care of Knives." She wanted Vash to help Knives realize his actions are redeemable and a mistake to have been made. Make him realize it's not too late to change. Education is the key and cornerstone to resolve cruelty, to bring peace, and to grow and dispense kindness. Vash's 26 episodes of pacifist journeys were all in good faith, but he alone, through kind acts, can't restore a world full of crime, theft, and murder. A world where many have lost so much and feel like there's little to gain. A world where picking up a bottle is easier than working on your craft. A world where kindness is met with betrayal. A world where those who have lost seek equal punishment to those who have taken. In a world like this, if no one learns the folly of their ways and does not grow from their own mistakes and treacherous backgrounds, then that same world will forever stay cruel. So yes, maybe Vash can't save everybody, and maybe Wolfwood and Knives are wrong to think you should kill to survive. But we will never know what is the right path until we ourselves realize our own mistakes, learn from them, and teach them to others. Poetically, when Vash finally approaches Knives in their final conflict in the final episode of Trigun, he recalls every tragic moment of his journey up until then.
楽しかったかい？人間として生きて。ああ、最高だったとも。